They're just renting a chunk of land to put their tower on, and so I believe that's what it is based on, is whether you're actually renting a facility.
Thank you.
And then wrapping that up, our criminal justice sales taxes, 36.86, and then our other criminal justice funding is up 10.29%. Utility tax on page 10. Overall, our utility tax revenue is up 6.34%. You can see natural gas is up 33.4. Electric is up 26.58. That's one of the three that just started this year. So those estimates were as close as we could come. So it looks like they're tracking above what we predicted. Same thing with sewer and water, the other two new ones. Those are coming in higher. Again, phone and cellular are the two that are below our budget estimates. Franchise fees are up 4.55%, so those are tracking pretty close. Do you have any questions on utility tax or franchise fees?
Oh, Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you, Chair. Stan and Leslie, this is just a heads up. Leasehold tax is not because it's just not because it's not on facility. They are actually charged if it's just a vacant land. I believe that the leasehold tax exemption is from the FCC regulations on communications being able to be put on, but I don't believe that's because they're not renting the building, because leasehold tax are put on all kinds of lands and buildings, or just lands itself. So, but I would check and see on that. I don't know how long we've had that on the books, because things change with FCC on, what we can or cannot do. But I would check with them on what regulations exempt cellular services from paying leasehold tax.
I've made a note to do that.
Thank you.
And Leslie, I had a different question on natural gas. We're up by 33%. It seems an odd time of year. Is natural gas like electricity, where we're dealing with historic projection? Is that how we do it, or is it an actual?
It's historic projections. We take about a 3-year. It tends to be up just because January, February tend to be colder. So then it drops and picks back up. So I expect that one to even out a bit. That concludes my presentation.
Does anybody have any questions?
I do. I have one, get a hand up, but it's just quicker to ask. On our population projection for 2021, it looks like that might be the old number, not the new number out of the census.
Good evening. I am calling the regular meeting of the University Place City Council for Monday, September 20, 2021 to order. For audience members participating and those here in the council chamber, this is our second hybrid council meeting, meaning that we have individuals in the chamber, staff and myself, and we have citizens in attendance. We have council members also on call or in their houses on video. I want to thank Councilmember Worthington for hosting the first hybrid meeting on the 7th of September. So if we do have technical difficulties, we will try and work through them. Hopefully everybody can hear and see all participants in the meeting this evening. May I have and that also explains why I am wearing a mask and everyone else in the audience is wearing a mask, because it is a mandate from our executive, from the governor's office. So we are all social distancing and following protocol. So Ms. Janita, could you please call roll?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Figueroa,
Councilmember Figueroa present.
Councilmember Keel,
Councilmember Keel, present.
Councilmember Pro Tem Lee,
Councilmember Pro Tem Lee, present.
Councilmember McCluskey,
Councilmember McCluskey, present.
Councilmember Fleming,
Councilmember Fleming here.
Mayor Pro Tem Worthington,
Mayor Pro Tem Worthington, present.
Mayor Belisi.
Mayor Belisi, present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. May I ask Councilmember Fleming to please lead us in Pledge of Allegiance? And those of us here in the chamber, if we could stand, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Please join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Fleming. Our next item on the agenda is the approval of our agenda. May I call for a motion to approve the agenda as provided?
Mayor Belisi, this is Mayor Pro Tem Worthington, and I move the approval of the agenda as provided.
I have a first. Do I have a second?
Councilmember Keel, I second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Are there any objections to approving the agenda as provided? Seeing or hearing none, the approval of the agenda passes unanimously. Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is public comments. We do have an individual that is in our audience this evening that would like to provide council with some comments. If there are anybody in the public that is wishing to provide council comments, the information is on the screen at this time. Your public comment, you can dial in by calling in phone number 1-509-342-7253. Provide meeting ID number 672-739-203#. And you will be called on the last 4 digits of your phone number. And when I call on you, please hit *6 to unmute your phone. Provide your first name and address for the record, and keep your remarks to 3 minutes. And the clerk will inform you when the time is up. You will hear a beeper. Other ways that public can comment is via email up to 5:30 p.m. on the day of our meeting. And you can email your public comment to egenetia@cityofup.com. With that, Ms. Cowley, would you please provide your public comment at this time? Or Cawley, I'm sorry.
Do you want my name and address and all that stuff?
Yes, please.
Karen, I'm Karen Cawley. I live at 8612 29th Street West here in UP. And I just wanted to understand you're talking to the Community Connection Place tonight. And I just wanted to let you know that the senior center activities are very important. I know that as a portion of the people that live here in UP, it doesn't sound like very many, but those who do participate regularly, it's very important to them, especially now with the lockdowns and with taking proper precautions to come in and take part in the activities and have some kind of social action at this particular time is very important. A lot of these people don't have family in the area, or maybe don't have family at all. And it's important. It's important to keep it going somehow. And we are aware that we're not particularly wanted there. We feel that we're kind of the stepchildren in the group, but we do want to see it continue somehow and have a place for us to gather. And we do appreciate that we are there now. And I think that's it.
Well, thank you very much. It's a welcome thing to have an actual body and some public comment. I'm really thrilled to be in a live setting where there is human interaction. So thank you very much, Ms. Cowley, for your comments for tonight. I do not see any public on the phone. All participants that are listed are participants that are going to be presenting this evening. We did, Council, receive an email that was forwarded to you on Friday from Emelita Janita, our city clerk. It was public comments regarding the senior center from Richard Pettigrew, Helen McDaniel, Linda Wamborney, Bunny Nance, Terry Grayson, and Kim Oman. So I hope you had an opportunity to read those comments before this evening's meeting. With that, I will close the public comment section of our meeting and proceed to the next item on our agenda, which is our consent agenda. May I call for a motion to approve or amend the consent agenda as provided?
Mayor Belisi, Mayor Pro Tem Worthington, and I move approval of the consent agenda.
I have a first. Do I have a second?
Councilmember Keel, I second.
Okay. Are there any objections to approving the consent agenda as submitted? Okay. Hearing none and seeing none, the consent agenda is approved unanimously. Thank you very much. Our next item on our agenda is the public hearing concerning the budget carry forward and biennial budget adjustments. This is a public comment and public hearing. So after our staff report, I will ask for public comment before asking for council consideration. So Ms. Blaisdell, can you please provide us with the staff report?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Leslie Blaisdell, Finance Director. I'll wait, there's a PowerPoint once that gets up. All right. So before you for tonight's public hearing and consideration is the 2021-2022 biennial budget adjustment. We are combining the carry forward adjustment, which is usually approved in June, and the mid-biennial adjustment, which occurs in the fall of odd years, the midpoint of the adopted biennial budget adjustment. The carry forward adjustments recognize the carry forward of funding from the 2020 budget for reappropriation in 2021 and is comprised primarily of beginning fund balance adjustments, capital improvement projects, IT internal service fund changes, and continuing grant funding. Next slide. The most significant change you'll note is in our restricted and CIP funds. It's mostly reflective of carry forwards in revenues and expenditures in Parks CIP. That's $222,000 for the Chambers Leech Creek Trail project. Public Works CIP, $11.3 million for projects that were started last year and are continuing this year. And IT internal service fund expenditures, $826,000 of that amount is for IT hardware and software replacements. The remaining is in fleet and property management. Next slide. Some of the other expenditure adjustments is the carry forward of UPTV capital restricted monies. We've got the contingency at 2% of the operating budget. Community development requested carry forward for books, professional services, and consulting services. City clerk had some codification that did not occur till early this year, so that is being carried forward. Human resources is carrying forward consulting services, and then in the street fund, we're carrying forward monies for street lighting, pavement maintenance, and a variable message sign. Next slide. For the mid-biennial portion of the adjustment, our revenue adjustments we recognize some adjustments to revenues based on updated estimates for various revenue sources, including state shared revenues. Each year, MRSC provides a revenue calculator to help us estimate our revenues. We also review other revenues for adjustments, and the significant revenue projection adjustments are listed on the slide. They include sales tax, some decreases to utility tax projections for cellular, increases to our refuse water and electric franchise fees.
Over 30% of the population of University Place.
Reductions.
You had 5, and I think these numbers are not what they should be.
That's what is on their stats. That's where we got them from.
Yeah, who's that?
Reductions to investment interest. We've added the ARPA funding expense, reductions to fuel tax, increases for our real estate excise tax projections, as well as increases to gambling tax, criminal justice sales taxes. The police fund received a one-time state city assistance allocation that we're including, and we also received an NPDES grant of $50,000. The remaining revenue adjustments are interfund transfers related to CIP project carry forwards and adjustments to beginning fund balances. Next slide. On the expenditure side, since adopting the budget in late 2020, many changes have occurred in staffing due to staff leaving, retirements, and department reorganization. So in order to get up-to-date salary and benefit amounts, we ran new position controls to update all of our salary and benefit projections. Other changes that affected salary and benefits is the increase to the staff COLA amount based on the June CPI and the union contract requirement. So that was an increase of 0.5%. We included any sick leave and vacation payout amounts for employees separating service. And then we included the reduction to the PERS employer contribution rate, which decreased from 12.97% to 10.25%. Next slide. There were some expenditure adjustments to take care of some things approved by council throughout this year in a $40,000 addition to 2021 for the contribution to the Veterans Memorial, a court cost increase based on the new updated contract, and then the Suite A tenant improvements in the Municipal Facilities Fund. And in the court cost goes up in 2022. Next slide. There are some CIP adjustments, a couple new projects. The first one is for the Public Works Equipment Shed. That's estimated at $210,000. This is just a quote estimate because the project is not in the budget, so we have not expended any funds to do an actual design engineering. This is a quote from a builder based on a similar type project that they have completed. So the cost per square foot on that estimate is $65 per square foot. This would be a 40 by 80 equipment storage building, and the picture at the bottom right is an example of the type of structure we're looking at. Next slide. We're also including the Grandview Drive overlay project. The total cost for the project is $860,000. $731,000 is grant funded. This will provide overlay of Grandview Drive between 48th Street West and 62nd Street Court West. There was a question at the last meeting regarding why that line kind of stops before the corner there. That map shows it as a hard right. That's actually a curve in the roadway. And when I talked to our city engineer, Jack, he said that it stops at an intersection. So we would have had to either stop at that intersection or carry it all the way through the curve. And to go further through the curve pushed us beyond the amount of grant funds we could request. So they chose to stop it at that intersection. It's actually the entrance to the golf course, I believe. Next slide is the Leech Creek sewer. That's monies from the state capital budget, $2.1 million. There is no match on that. Next slide. We have some other adjustments that are some new items. Community development included $75,000 for consulting related to the Northeast Business District planning. Street lighting, we've had quite a few run over, and each year more and more. So we're just increasing that budget to give us enough money in the budget to be able to replace poles and replace our stock as we need them. So we always have some on hand and can replace the damaged ones more quickly. Code enforcement is adding $5,000 for some abatement. Animal control increasing for credit card processing fees. Now that we're doing payments online, that does come with a fee for our credit card processor. And then in risk management, we have increased premium costs based on new infrastructure that is insured. We also did some changes to our baseline assumptions, which was to restore the $4 million reserved ending fund balance, transfer to our strategic reserve to increase our total to 15% of our operating budget. We had originally forecasted to do about 1% per year, but with the fund balances the way they were, we elected to get that to the full 15% now. And we are also requesting to early pay off our last Public Works Trust Fund loan. The original payoff would have been in 2025, and we're hoping to pay that off this year. Next slide. The financial forecast has been updated to include all the adjustments. All existing services and legal and contractual obligations can be met with existing revenues through the biennium and the 10-year forecast period. We've already had one public hearing on September 7th. Tonight is the second public hearing, and then council approval this evening. Our financial position overall has not materially changed. Next slide. And that concludes my presentation. We can go to public hearing and then take any questions if you have any.
Okay. At this point in the meeting, we are open for public comment. There is no audience member in council chambers that is speaking on this point, nor am I aware of any new individuals that have signed on that might be providing public comment. If there is anybody that is currently watching this live on YouTube and would like to make comment, you can call in remotely at 1-509-324-7253, provide the conference ID number of 672-739-203# to come on and make comment. I will provide a few minutes and go through some basic rules. If you are calling in, we will be identifying by the last 4 digits of your phone number. When you are called on, you can hit your #6 or *6 to unmute your phone. You are asked to provide your name and address for the record and to keep your remarks to 3 minutes, and the clerk will notify you when time is up. If you would choose to make comment after the fact, we always do accept emails provided through our city clerk here at City Hall. Okay, I do not see anybody making an attempt to call in at this time, so I will be closing the public hearing portion of this meeting and ask if there are any council comments regarding this material that you have previously studied. Okay, I do not see any hands being raised, so I will ask for a motion for consideration, please.
Mayor Bellizzi, this is Mayor Pro Tem Worthington, and I move for the approval of the proposed amendments to the city's 2021-22 budget.
Okay, I have a first. Do I have a second?
Councilmember Keel, I second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Are there any comments at this time before I call for the vote? Councilmember Keel, you raised your hand.
Great, thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Leslie, for your presentation. I just want to say yet again for another year, you and your staff have done a fantastic job of explaining our budget. I found again this year it to be very clear and clean and very easy to understand. I appreciate that. I appreciate the work that you and staff have done throughout this pandemic, working with the federal government around all the ARPA funding and the funding that we've got and the funding that we were able to get to businesses and individual families throughout this pandemic, I think is outstanding. We helped a lot of people. We helped a lot of businesses. There was, 7 digits that came through this organization to go out to them. And I just think it's fantastic. And I want to thank you and your team for all the work you did this year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Keel, for echoing my sentiments too. Are there any other comments from council? Okay, hearing none, Ms. Janita, would you please call roll for the vote?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Figueroa?
You are muted, Mr. Figueroa.
Sorry about that, Mayor. Councilmember Figueroa, aye.
Councilmember Keel?
Councilmember Keel, aye.
Councilmember Pro Tem Lee?
Councilmember Pro Tem Lee, aye.
Councilmember McCluskey?
Councilmember McCluskey, aye.
Councilmember Fleming?
Councilmember Fleming, aye.
And Mayor Pro Tem Worthington?
Mayor Pro Tem Worthington, aye.
Mayor Belisi?
Mayor Belisi, aye.
You have 6 ayes, Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. We are on to the next item on our agenda, which is our city manager report, followed by council comments and report outs. Mr. Sugg, can you please undo your video and provide us with your city manager report, please?
Well, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This last week, if you drove by on Bridgeport at south of 40th Street, there's large amount of construction going on a mixed-use project that'll be 104 residential units, market rate residential units. It's called the 4201 project, 4201 Bridgeport project, and they're putting in a stormwater vault for stormwater detention that meets all DOE, Department of Ecology requirements. It's a fairly significant sized on-site vault. And so you saw a crane on site. This project, when complete, will be a 2-building mixed-use project, and it will include the construction and dedication of a 600-foot-long public road segment that will become part of our downtown street grid, with curbs, gutters, sidewalks, decorative streetlights, and street trees. This project is in the residential target area that council approved earlier this year, and is one of the opportunity properties that the council has long sought to get redeveloped because it was an eyesore, and it was a source of complaints and police calls and code enforcement issues. Unfortunately, that site is now under development. It's underway, and so if you drive by there, you'll see it under construction, and hopefully the buildings will supposedly be complete by fall of 2022. So with that, that concludes my report, Mayor, members of the council.
Thank you, Mr. Sugg. And I just realized I did skip a vital part of our agenda. So the next item on the agenda was actually the South Sound Affordability Partner decision this evening. We have studied it on a couple of occasions already, and tonight is a yes or no as to whether or not we're going to join the South Sound Housing Affordability Partners. I am going to request Matt Kaiser, our attorney, to provide a brief update to the community and to council on this.
And thank you, Madam Mayor. Before I begin, I know it appeared that Councilmember Figueroa was trying to flag your attention.
Yes, Mr. Figueroa.
Mayor, there's a person that I don't recognize as part of our council. If they can turn off their video, it's very confusing to have that person on video.
Yes, Linda's working with Sheila on that.
Okay.
Yeah, she's
Thank
on
you
for presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kaiser.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Matt Kaiser, I'm your city attorney. As the mayor spoke just a few moments ago, on for final action tonight is consideration of whether the city of University Place would like to join the South Sound Affordability Housing Partnership. This is a matter which council has considered and received extensive study session on before in broad terms. This is sort of a first of its kind in Pierce County where the local jurisdictions are seeking to get together to address common housing needs. Rather than belabor a number of the points that had been addressed in the multiple study sessions, I wanted to just bring council up to date on one additional factor, which was the number of jurisdictions which have joined or have otherwise taken action. Just to bring you up to date, those municipalities which have agreed to join SSHAP, according to materials which are being shared with your colleagues over in Furcrest tonight, are the City of Auburn, City of Fife, Gig Harbor, Lakewood, Milton, Pierce County, Puyallup, the Puyallup Tribe, the town of Steilacoom, Sumner, and the City of Tacoma. The cities of DuPont and Orting have considered and have rejected it. And as I noted a minute ago, the City of Furcrest is doing a study session on that tonight. I don't know if there's additional questions that council may otherwise have, but to the extent there are, I'm happy to field them, and I'll turn the matter back to council.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kaiser. This is open for public comment. At this time, I do not have anybody in the audience that's wanting to speak on this issue, nor are there any callers that have stepped forward indicating we have no callers that are on our meeting this evening. Again, the same rules apply as with the prior public hearing. If you are watching this online and you would like to provide comment, you can call in remotely by dialing 1-509-342-7253. Use conference ID number 672-739-203#. I will provide a moment for that, and then we will go on to council consideration. Okay, I do not see anybody making an attempt to be admitted to this meeting, so I will close the public comment portion of the meeting and ask for a motion for consideration, please.
Mayor Blasey, this is Mayor Pro Tem Worthington, and I move for the approval of the South Sound Housing Affordability Partners Partnership.
Okay, I have a first. Do I have a second?
It's Councilman McKeel. I second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. We are now open for council consideration. Are there any questions or comments from council at this time? Council Member Keel.
Great, thank you, Mayor. And we have studied this a lot, and I'm very much appreciative of staff and the county and City of Tacoma and all the ones that were involved and their consultant that were involved to bring this matter before us. They've answered all of my questions. I know that many of my colleagues, you all have had questions as well that I presume were answered. I am fully supportive of this effort. And I wasn't always there. I had a lot of questions. My concerns had to do with, is this something that we could be equal partners with equal understanding, with equal influence, and all those things. And in my investigation, I find that to be absolutely the case, that we can be equal amongst all the players that are there. I see a lot of our sister cities joining. I think it'd be good for us to be a part of this, just to show our willingness to be, members of King County and be able to work in that regard. And the other fact of the matter is, homelessness is a pandemic. I mean, it's the other thing that's going on. It's running rampant in my words, in my opinion. And we have to have solutions that are going to address it. And we cannot, as a city, go that on our own. We don't have the resources. We don't have the space. We don't have the wherewithal, the staffing to address homelessness on our own. So I'm very excited to be able to work with those that have a lot more resources that we can partner with and leverage going forward so that we can address the growing homelessness problem in our city. So I'm happy to support this going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Keel. Mayor Pro Tem Worthington, you had your hand raised?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Belisi. And while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to see if I can get my hand unraised. So, but I appreciated Councilmember Keel's comments. So I've also looked at this as we all have, and we've studied this extensively, and there's been a considerable amount of time, and I've heard other leaders in our communities talking about this as well. And affordable housing is an issue that touches all of us. It doesn't know boundaries specifically, and whether we're dealing with homelessness or housing affordability, we need to look at that as a more holistic approach than something that stops at the city's limits. This would give us some new tools to help with that. It would also provide us a chance to speak with one unified voice in Olympia, and I think that has every opportunity to provide more resources for us. And I don't think there is a better vehicle for that opportunity. I'm certainly supporting of it as well, and look forward to voting on it here soon.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember McCluskey, you raised your hand.
Thank you, Mayor Belisi. I was initially a little skeptical of this because I don't like another layer of government, and I was hesitant because I didn't want it to become a powerful entity such as the PSRC, leveraging their rules and regulations onto a municipality that is not fully on board with some of the outcomes of this committee. And so I think that for right now, with this pilot project and being voluntary, that it's a great opportunity for University Place to have a seat at the table so they can also be part of the guiding light that will initially create and maybe establish shape going forward. I'm also excited to have other partnerships at the table so that we could leverage their ideas, skills, and abilities and to bring them into University Place. And also demonstrates that UP is part of this solution and is willing to look at our city and how it can partner and also puzzle piece housing inventory holistically with other entities surrounding, because University Place cannot be the solution for all housing choices. So if there's adjacencies that could be targeted, and UP can fit into parts of that, and also to look at housing inventory issues, moving some of the empty nesters into places where they rather be, maybe condos, working on legislation for that to maybe spark that, some of those things. And bottom line, this is a voluntary committee that we can always opt out of if it's not going the direction that we feel University Place needs and should go. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember McCluskey. Councilmember Fleming, you raised your hand.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't think Councilmember McCluskey could have stated it any better. I too have been somewhat skeptical of creating another governmental organization such as the one that's before us tonight and been proposed. And especially, for those who may be watching tonight and looking at Leslie's previous presentation on our mid-biennial, I know I'm going to say that wrong, review, on all that, the taxes and the fees that we've had to raise over the past year to keep the budget balanced. Initially I was not in favor of this because we're spending money again to support this endeavor. But on the other hand, it is extremely important that, having been down in Olympia to see where Pierce County doesn't always get that unified voice on critical issues. It always seems to default to King County. Affordable housing, I'm still struggling with that term because that means different things to different people. But again, it puts all the local municipalities at one place at the table to have that conversation and define perhaps what that's going to mean to not only our local community, but to our communities as a whole. So, with that said, I came actually into the meeting tonight thinking I would oppose this just on the principle that we're spending money on another agency when we can't spend money at home to support some of the initiatives that our citizens have asked for. But in thinking this through in a little bit deeper level, I think it's important that we do get on board with this endeavor. I call it the experiment. At least give it a year, see where it is going, see that it can actually produce something for the people of Pierce County, and then for, more importantly to me, to the people of University Place. And at the end of that year, as a council, come back, revisit this, and really see if we're truly getting the bang for our buck. And if we are, then we should continue with it. If we're not, then it's obviously a conversation for another time to see if we want to go in a different direction. But I think the points that have been made by certainly Councilmember McCluskey and others are well taken. So, and kudos to our staff. I really want to recognize the staff, because I know at one particular study session we drilled them pretty hard, but they've stepped up to the plate. So thank you guys for providing that information.
Are there any other council comments at this time? Okay, not seeing any, I will provide the final comment. I too, like a lot of council members, was leery of another organization to be a member of. However, as I think through this process, one of the things that University Place has struggled with for the past 25 years or even longer under county rule is how to incentivize affordable housing development. We are so focused on regulatory requirements that are given to us from the state and federal level that oftentimes we overlook or can't think creatively how we can entice an affordable unit, whether it's for low income or for our average citizen in University Place. And I think as housing prices go up, it becomes even more important that we have some creative solutions and work cooperatively with other jurisdictions in Pierce County to find how we can get affordable housing in Pierce County as well as in University Place. And I'm hoping that this organization, with a person that's singularly focused on housing needs and not in funding and grant adherence, et cetera, can help all jurisdictions, and in particular University Place, in making some strides in that area. And then as an offshoot is also, the homeless epidemic, coming up with the creative solutions and how we can partner with our community members in solving that problem on a regional basis. So I am going to be supporting this this initiative, and I agree with Councilmember Fleming. We do need to hold the feet to the fire and give them a couple years and see if there's some production that's coming out that is useful and shows some positive impacts in Pierce County. So if it doesn't, then I am all for getting out. But at this point, I think we need to look at it as a regional plan on how we can get creative with our housing needs and start solving some problems. So if I don't have any other council members, I will ask Ms. Janita to conduct the roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Councilmember Figueroa, aye.
Councilmember Keel,
Councilmember Keel, aye.
Councilmember Pro Tem Lee,
Councilmember Pro Tem Lee, aye.
Councilmember McCluskey,
Councilmember McCluskey, aye.
Councilmember Fleming,
You were muted, sir.
Councilmember Fleming, aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Worthington,
Mayor Pro Tem Worthington, aye.
Mayor Belisi.
Mayor Belisi, aye.
Mayor, you have 6 ayes. Motion carries.
Thank you. We have a unanimous decision. All right, now we will get back on track with the agenda, and our next item on the agenda is council comments and report outs. So with that, Councilmember Figueroa, did you have any report outs or comments at this time?
Councilmember Figueroa does not have any comments. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Keel, I am assuming you have some report outs and comments for us.
Good evening, Mayor. I do have a few. Sound Transit is going to be October 2nd. We're going to be opening, I think it's 2 new light rail stations. Unfortunately, they're all in King County at this time, and we are going to be starting some more work in Federal Way very soon, and that's exciting because we now, after that work begins, we're going to be starting a lot more work down here in Pierce County. So that is very exciting, and we have some work going also in Pierce Transit. There's work in construction of our new bus bays and our new building. So that work there continues. And hopefully within the next few weeks, there's going to be another, what they call shakeup around as far as the routes and things like that. And there'll be more information that will be coming out from that group. There are some things going on within AWC. Those of you that have been tracking that, we just had our legislative meeting, and a lot of legislative things that we're going to be focused on in AWC was passed and being moved forward. You can go out to the AWC website to see what all things that are there. But the big thing is that there's going to be a lot of focus on clarifying, and that's the word, clarifying what last legislative session meant around a lot of the police reforms. As you all know, there's a lot of confusion. We've actually had presentation from our police chief about how they've interpreted what these new laws are, and there's and these are my words, in my view, there's a bit of miscommunication around what was intended versus what was said and how things are being interpreted. And so AWC is going to lead the charge, working with the legislature to provide, and also with the police unions and sheriffs to get some clarity around what all that is meant. There's a couple other little things that we're working on there too as well, but I'll save those for a later time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Keel. Councilmember Pro Tem Lee, do you have any comments or report outs?
This Councilmember Pro Tem Lee. Yes, I have one report out. On September 16th, I was fortunate enough to be picked as an alternate to attend our stand in for Councilmember McCluskey at our Pierce County Regional Council meeting. It was a rather daunting task because I found myself as the only representative from University Place, but on a bright side, the business was going through the 300 or 400 page countywide document, planning document, and the county staff is updating that. And I think the most exciting thing that happened was there was about a 10-minute discussion on the definition of should and shall. And they established a ad hoc committee, which I will be more than happy to, when I find out what the outcome is, I'll be happy to update you on that. Other than that, I think if you're really truly interested in this regional planning document, you might take a look at the Pierce County website. It'll be an interesting read. As a comment, the Veterans Plaza Memorial, as you know, there's some work started on it, and we certainly appreciated the funds that were provided by the city. We continue to fundraise. In fact, since we've turned dirt, I think we've raised over $5,000 just on our own. But if you're interested, for people listening, if you're interested in purchasing a paver that would be placed in a memorial, if you go to our website, which is University Place VeteransPlaza.org, you can copy a order form and make your donation. That is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Pro Tem Lee. Councilmember McCluskey, do you have any report outs at this time?
Yes, I do, Madam Mayor. Thank you. The shoulds and the shalls have continued on. So now we have a ad hoc. The last two PCRC meetings, that was one of the theme topics there. And I do encourage everyone to look at that, because there's some significant changes in there and additions, especially with climate change and housing. And so that would be, as Councilmember Pro Tem Lee indicated, a very good read, but not a midnight hour read, because you want to be wide awake when you read it. And I had the privilege to join in the restart of United for UP. It's started up with Chris Saunders. It was at the UPPC church, and there was quite a few community partners in that room collaborating with the next steps and things. And so I'm excited to see how that evolves again, and so that we can have a better UP in the grassroots area percolating up, so that some of our needs in our city can be met. Homelessness, food, and hopefully recreation. Maybe they'll think about that. But anyway, so that was a worthwhile meeting to attend. Our county council member, Ryan Mello, he attended that as well, and he was excited to hear some of the things that was discussed in the meeting, learning a lot more about City of UP, which is what he's trying to focus on. And the Zoo Trek Authority met, and looks like sales revenue is still up. Yay, it's creating, solvency and everything green and in roses. They still have a conservative outlook in budget going forward. And they talked about the leopard frog that's endangered. And so they're partnering with Oregon. That's under a 2-year grant programming to increase the population in the eastern side of the state, and establishing a new habitat for the frog, because the old habitat the water is slowly decreasing there. And so they're trying to sustain that, the frog, and establish it in another location that doesn't have quite the ebbs and flows as their home. So they have released over close to almost 400 little frogs that they've incubated, and came to, I guess they're juveniles now. They inserted it with a little fluorescent plug in their leg, so that, you can put a little UV light on it, I guess, and they'll light up. So they'll be able to see if it's the incubated frog or not, because what they want to know is, are they going to proliferate? So and that will make the total program highly successful, and they can maybe get another grant and continue it on. And so they talked about the strategic plan update for the zoo that will create a new mission, a new vision, sort of reawakening everything and putting a spin on it in regards to their education, their being inclusive, and also an outlook on how they can further outreach the zoo and trek experience for others. So the vision and the mission is still in its works. They did disclose some of the ideas, but they're still getting public feedback on that and update, and they are working with a consultant. Like I said, the financial update looked pretty good. You know, they're still going into the next year with COVID budgeting in case they need to. And then there's no really forecast of upticking a lot of their staff. So, and the Trek is ready to receive its first tram. The tram station has broken ground, and so they are building that. So that's all, and they're really cool little trams. I think they're coming from Portugal. You need to get on the site and see it. You know, they're really cute, and they have a whole sunroof going all across the top of it, and they can have an indoor-outdoor experience if the weather is cooperating. So I think that's going to enhance the numbers going in there. And the new eagle habitat is wonderful, and they have a sculptor created a beautiful eagle on the log. So I like to say the eagle has landed there officially. The arms are spread, you know, the wings are spread. So it all looks pretty cool. So I could go on with a few more really cool things because, you know, I love animals, and it's a fun board to be on because you get all those cool animal reports and the aquarium update. You know, they're going to drain the aquarium, that old aquarium, and so they're working on removing the fish, especially the larger sharks, to another place without harming them. And so it's quite the feat to do that. And so so far that's going well. You know, they did a pilot run through, and the shark really didn't get stressed. So they're doing all kinds of monitoring to make sure the animals are safe and healthy during this transition. So, and then once they fix the aquarium, they're going to fill it all back up, and with some new updates and improvements to that experience there as well. So with that, I'm going to conclude my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember McCluskey. Councilmember Fleming, do you have any report outs or comments at this time?
Good evening, Madam Mayor. I have nothing to report out, nor do I have comments. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Worthington.
Let's see, Mayor Belisi. Yes, I do have a few comments and reports, and so let me get started. But and part of that is to welcome you back. Thank you for coming back. It was. I know you were having a wonderful time, no doubt, with your son and others. But glad to have you back. It kept me busy while you were gone. So there were a couple of different things going on, and I wanted to share that with council. So one of those items was on September 11th at the district fire headquarters. We had the memorial events, as we all know, commemorating 20 years since the tragic day when the Twin Towers fell and thousands of innocent lives were lost and hundreds of first responders died with them. The fire district did a wonderful job with that. It was my pleasure to be there and say a couple of words. I think Chief Sharp and his team did an excellent job. I know that Councilmember Pro Tem Lee was there, and Councilmember McCluskey, and we did our best to represent all of you there. And it was a good turnout, but it was also very much a moving event, even though it was kept relatively short. City Manager Sugg was also there in attendance, which I appreciated as well. We had, as we've talked about, our first hybrid meeting 2 weeks ago. And then the next night, I had the opportunity, the privilege of welcoming the Pierce County Council here for an in-district meeting. And they were sitting at the dais, and they had a pretty good crowd in what I think of as our council chambers, but that night it was theirs. And they had, something in the range of about 40 people or so. The primary purpose of that was to talk about homelessness and housing affordability, and there was some excellent information and viewpoints being shared. I had an opportunity to welcome the council, the Pierce County Council, and to thank Council Member Ryan Mello, who had the opportunity to name UP University Place as the place for the in-district meeting. So appreciated that attention, and he ran a good meeting. And as the host council member, he was chair. In my welcome, I spoke to them about some of our partnerships over time, and then ended talking about a future partnership to really highlight the opportunity that we have with our potential to fund sewers here in UP, but on the Pierce County sewer system. And that seemed to be received well. The county executive, Dan Meyer, was there, and after I sat down and it was an appropriate time, he came over to chat with me a little bit about that, sounding very supportive of it all. And I would hope that the council members would be as well if we do indeed go forward with that proposal. And then this is not because of your being out of town, but I had a Rainier Communications Commission meeting, which I do just anyway. But just wanted to report it's moving forward as different jurisdictions are now approving their franchise agreements. That's using the master agreement that we have participated in forming. I know our staff is busy looking at some of those details to fine-tune it more specifically to University Place's need, such as how we deal with capital funding for equipment. And that'll be coming up on the weeks to come, eventually back to council for a review and approval if you choose for extending the franchise. Let's see, I was trying to remember the term on this one. It's in excess of 10 years. I think it's the range of 12 to 14, but we'll know it when we see it in the document. And we can talk more about that. The point is you only get to do this every decade or two. So it won't be, assuming you approve it or we approve it, it won't be coming around again soon. All in all, as I said, good to have you back. I've got maybe a little more time to do other things, and I'll be checking with Jill as to how best to use that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and I can't thank you enough for standing in for me during my absence. Unfortunately, at the time I booked my vacation, it was not known about these events, so I really appreciate you pinch hitting for me during that time. I do not have any report outs, so I'm going to close this section of our meeting, and we will go into our study session. The next item on our agenda is the Senior Center discussion. I know at your last meeting, which I did watch on video, we did discuss the lease for the Community Connections Place, and this is just a continuation of it. This is a discussion of our senior center and our opportunity to ask Sheila Phillips some information, any questions we may have on her operation of the facility. So I would like to ask our City Attorney, Matt Kaiser, to come forward and kind of give us a brief overview, and then we will have a presentation from Ms. Phillips and an opportunity to do question and answers.
Good evening. Excuse me, Mayor Bellucci, I apologize very much for interrupting. I'm Nancy Plant. I'm an attorney working with Community Connection Place. Sheila called me earlier and said she was unable to hear the proceedings. So I just want to confirm whether she's able to hear now. Sheila?
Okay.
Can we have you log off, Sheila, and log back in?
So she can't hear that, but I will text it to her.
Okay.
Yeah, Mayor, I'm wondering if our staff shouldn't call her and walk her through logging on.
What I'm actually thinking of is a couple of things. One, continuing it to the next meeting. Two, I know Sheila can't hear me, but either heading to City Hall if she's over at the Senior Center, or one of us, and I'll volunteer myself to go over there. I'm about 15 minutes away, and trying to get her set up on a hotspot. I'll defer to council. I know we have one other agenda item afterwards.
I don't know if Nancy might be able to relay the information to Sheila. She would have an opportunity to come here to City Hall for the presentation, or she can also call in by phone, I'm told, from our IT person, Linda Sees.
I will
can
text
talk
her
over
right.
the phone while still being on video.
I'll text her and ask if she wants either to come in person or call in.
Okay. While we're working through this situation, my next suggestion is that we move on to our final discussion for the evening, which is the debrief on the 2021 legislative priorities, until we get the situation with Sheila and Community Connection Place resolved, so we don't lose some time in our evening. So with that, Mr. Sugg, you are on. Mr. Sugg, you are off camera and you are muted. It looks like it's a night for some IT technical issues with our meeting tonight.
I think it's operator error.
Mr. Sugg, are you at your computer?
Mayor Belisi,
Yeah.
let's see, I actually, in your absence, had something to do with putting this agenda item on, and I'm just trying to figure out if I can pitch hit for a few minutes when Mr. Sugg gets connected here.
We're not on the camera.
Oh, is Sheila on now?
It's something with your technical service.
Yes.
Yes, but we cannot, the camera is not picking me up. We're unmuted. We've been muted. Can you see me or hear you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but we get a lot of feedback.
Well, I can hear you. We can see two city council members.
Okay.
But we can't.
I'm almost thinking that we might need to reschedule this for our next meeting and have Miss Phillip in our chamber to provide the presentation, so that we don't, because we're getting some feedback, so we're not able to hear you clearly, Sheila.
Okay.
Yeah, so how many of council members would like to see this? Because it is vital that we do get a presentation. Okay, I'm seeing a consensus from council that we will reschedule the senior center discussion for our next meeting, and ask that Sheila be in our council chambers for the presentation. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay, Sheila, did you understand what we just did? Can I have a staff member call Ms. Phillip and talk with her and let her know what we have just done? Is the attorney Nancy Platt, has she understood what we are doing with this item this evening? Or have we lost all of the participants? Okay, we will go on with our debrief on the 2021 legislative priorities.
All right, thank you, Mayor, members of the council, and I apologize. I had a technological error just at the time you asked me to come on, so it's a reboot definitely solved that problem. So hopefully the technology serves me as we go on. So with this, I'm going to ask if Linda could put up a screen share of a document I think you all recall from last year. We're talking tonight about our legislative priorities from 2021 in anticipation that we'll be talking to you in October about helping, going through and setting the priorities for the 2022 legislative session. So let's look back for a second and just at what we pitched to our legislative delegation in Olympia that represents University Place. There's 3 items, or excuse me, there's 4 to 5 items, and I'll just ask Linda to help me along as we, first of all, we'll scroll through these as I go through them one by one. First of all, police reform. Among the things we asked for, we sought clarification on use of force standards, decertification for officers violating standards, completion of misconduct investigations even after resignations, duty to intervene for fellow officer misconduct, and adequate mental health support and financial resources. The second item we asked for was an infrastructure investment. We requested $150,000. Well, let me take them one by one. So what happened on police reform? So police reform, there was a large number, as you know, of policing and accountability bills that were put through last year. And the bills addressed a number of issues that were raised in our legislative agenda and a host of other issues that were raised as well. Some of those include a prohibition on chokeholds and neck restraints and no-knock warrants, restrictions on the use of tear gas, adoption of use of force standards, deadly force incident investigation process, establishing an officer's duty to intervene, and updates on rules related to new officer background checks and revocation of an officer's certification. Now, you have heard from both our chief and you've read, you heard from our sheriff and others that there's, in terms of understanding these police reforms and how to implement them in the field, they're working with, as Councilmember Keel told you earlier tonight, working with AWC, and this is going to be brought back for clarification at the next legislative session to hopefully clarify some of these understandings on police reforms. So the next item was infrastructure investment. We requested $150,000 to study a sewer expansion to unsewered areas. And there was, as you know, we were, at the time we put that together, it was $150,000 to just study. Well, I think we did a little better than that. As you know, all 3 members of our legislative delegation were instrumental in the legislator's approval of the city's largest ever capital budget grant of $2.1 million to fund a major sewer expansion. So more than just study, it was to construct an actual sewer line along 67th from 27th down to 35th. So we're very happy about that. That's aside from all the ARPA funds, the federal funds. This is a state capital budget, our largest ever. So 2021 is a significant year in Olympia for us. Also, our previous $1 million grant for Lot 1 infrastructure improvements has been extended because there was a deadline, because of pandemic and other issues. The legislature has extended those deadlines, so we have more time to get those improvements implemented, and those are underway and in our design office. Also, for University Place, the state capital budget provided $128,000 for the current house museum and $34,000 for University Place Arts. So this was a very good year for University Place, thanks to our delegation in Olympia that worked very hard to make that happen. Just an FYI, there may be an amendment coming up to the current house lease coming to council in the upcoming weeks. So you'll be hearing something more about that. And then in the area of financial flexibility, the substitute House Bill 1069. Well, first of all, let me just say what we asked for was additional. Financial. We asked for removal of the restrictions on real estate excise tax revenues. Currently they're only allowed for capital needs. We asked for flexibility so that they could be used for maintenance operation of parks and capital facilities. And thanks to Substitute House Bill 1069, that provides the city with the flexibility through 2023 to use a portion of REIT revenue for maintenance and operation of our parks and capital facilities. We're still doing an analysis, but this could be a significant benefit to the finances of the city during this current economic environment. I want to make mention that Representative Levitt was a sponsor of this bill, and all members of our delegation voted in favor of that. So then we move on to Initiative 976. There you asked for additional transportation revenue tools, very consistent with what AWC was asking for, and trying to reinforce the AWC message. We remain hopeful that something can move forward in the upcoming legislative session in 2022. And we'll want to hear more from AWC, when their adopted priorities come out, I think later this week, if they aren't out already. So, and then in terms of city-state partnership, we ask every year with the legislature that they preserve the existing revenue sharing partnerships. Please don't sweep those funds back into the state budget. The cities, which are the economic engines for the state, really, that are providing these services, need every bit of revenue we can keep locally so that we can provide those services that the residents depend on. So with that, I'm going to just turn it back to, and you can stop screen sharing, or we can leave this up, Mayor, however you wish.
Well, I'm open for council comments at this time or suggestions. Any council comments? Mayor Pro Tem Worthington.
Thank you, Mayor Bellisi. So I just wanted to make a couple of quick comments. One is quite obvious. It's been a very good, productive year, and the numbers speak for themselves. These are some significant changes in what our typical appropriations could have been, perhaps. Staff worked very hard on this. I think council members worked hard on this as well. And the proof is in the pudding, as they say, and it was delivered. And our representatives in the 28th certainly were instrumental in getting that work done and achieved, from Senator Nobles to Representative Levitt to Representative Gronkowski. All of that worked and delivered many, if not virtually all of the requests we had in. So I was just pleased to see that, and I think that we need to take a moment and celebrate our community's success there. I would also add that in addition to what happened in the state, we have a federal congressional appropriation. It may not be the technically correct term, but essentially it is the what has happened with the help of the Congresswoman. She, after meeting with the mayor and having a conversation with Mayor Bellisi and getting some information to her staff, we've been able to hear that there's a pending partnership, if not an outright allocation now, with the Homestead Park project. So, and Steve, can you recall the details of that?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, $500,000 for Homestead Park improvements is currently pending in Washington. It's been passed by House Appropriations and it's pending Senate approval. And Congresswoman Strickland put 10 projects forward in her district. That was one of those 10 projects, and $500,000 million, and it was approved in the House.
So whether it remains to be part of the budget, time will tell, but definitely a step forward and in the right direction to serve our community and our citizens here. So really, I think, yeah, as Councilmember Keel started to do, we could use a round of applause. I think that's for everybody. Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to throw that in.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Staff could not have done it without our support in working behind the scenes with our legislators, both federally and state. And we could not have done this without staff support either. So kudos to staff and kudos to our council members for their advocacy on behalf of the citizens of University Place. Any other comments or questions about the 2021 update that was just, or the update that was just provided? Yes, Councilmember Keel.
Right, thank you, Mayor. And I guess I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm assuming that there's a follow-on conversation or there's some kind of connection with 2021 to 2022. And that's a guess on my part. So, and I guess we're going to talk about that at some time in the future, near future. So I'm just trying to.
Yes, it is the first phase of a discussion that we will be having for the next legislative.
Yeah. So in the near, yes, exactly. Very soon you'll be having an opportunity to talk about 2022. But it was kind of nice to think of what could happen in 2021 and get us ready for thinking what's next for 2022.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Figueroa, I saw you raise your hand.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to suggest prior to our next study session to study our legislative priorities, that maybe would it be prudent for all of us to maybe submit, and maybe you have that intention to request submission of what different council members may have for us to consider to work on.
Excellent idea, and that was part of the discussion. There will be an email going out asking for council priorities so that we can set up our next discussion in alignment with that and have the discussion on the various ideas that have been brought forward.
Yeah, I got 56 suggestions.
Okay, I'm waiting to see them. And if I only see 55, I'm going to be disappointed. So
I know. I'll have 57 just for good measure.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, I do understand that Matt Kaiser has spoken with Sheila Phillip, and we will be expecting her at our next meeting, and she will be here in council chambers for the study session that we were not able to do this evening. So if there are no further comments or questions, look forward to an email for upcoming legislative priorities that you want to discuss at our next study session on that. Probably, I believe it was scheduled for end of October, first part of November. So if I don't have any other hands raised or questions, we are going to call this meeting adjourned this evening. Thank you. Have a good evening.